So the National Labor Relations Board, or the NLRB, has issued a complaint against Kinetic Content, which is the production company for Love is Blind, the Netflix reality show, as well as the subsidiary of Kinetic Content, Delirium TV, that I guess works on Love is Blind. And the complaint from the NLRB, so this is like a federal agency, if you will. I mean, agency maybe is the wrong word, but the complaint is demanding that the producers, quote, reclassify all participants since January 19th, 2023 as employees and notify them in writing that they are employees, end quote. And their argument is essentially that the contestants were, quote unquote, deprived of their rights as workers. When I put those in quotes, I'm not doing that as like a sly, condescending thing, like, oh, like quote unquote deprived. It's just like the exact word that they use, that they were deprived of what was owed to them as workers. So if you've stumbled upon this video, or you follow me on this channel, you're not into reality television, you're like, oh, I'm so above it all, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. So Love is Blind, very, very popular reality show. It's on Netflix. It premiered in 2020, like right before COVID. I think it was like February 2020. And the premise of the show is that contestants in different cities, each season is like a different city, and typically they are very, very attractive, conventionally heterosexually attractive men and women, cis men and women. The premise is that these contestants are split up, men and women, and they essentially speed date with the opposite sex, but only through voice, right? They call them the pods. They go in the pods. So you basically go like in almost a little room where you have like a little microphone and you're just like talking to each other. And you might think, oh, that's an interesting experiment on, human connection and how dating can work. Oh, no, it's not about dating. It's about marriage. The idea is that people will propose to each other in the pods without seeing each other. And then really most of the show it takes place after Will You Marry Me? Yes. So most of the entertainment comes from the post-engagement trials and tribulations of these two people who had never met in person, now not only getting married, but are getting married within like 4 weeks or something crazy. So the whole premise is, will they make it to the altar? And they will prove the experiment. Is love truly blind? Sidebar, this isn't really important for this particular topic we're covering. I just fundamentally reject the thesis of this show. Not to say that, oh no, love is not blind and looks are really important. Well, yes, that is actually really important. But love is more than physical attraction, but it's also more than just being able to hold a conversation, right? All the pods do is just create environments to talk to people. That's not how strong relationships are built. They're built on, there is something intangible about cohabitating, about just being in another person's presence. Like, I'm not super new age, man, all the energies, man. But like, there is like something about being within someone's aura or their energy, something inexplicable, unspeakable. So the whole premise of the show is like, oh, looks, but they also choose like the most beautiful people to be on the show. So if they really wanted to show Is Love Truly Blind, they would cast a bunch of hot people and a bunch of ugly people, and then theoretically they would all end up mismatching or mixing and matching. So I'm just like fundamentally against the premise of this anyway. But I don't watch it religiously. My fiance Viviana watches it, and I'll watch if I'm in the room as almost like a hate watch, as like a great like Brechtian distancing from the characters, if you will, right? But nevertheless, it's been hugely successful for Netflix. It's had 7 seasons. It's about to start its 8th season in February, 5 years after it premiered. And it's been, like I said, it's been very successful. Netflix reported 30 million households had watched the show within the first 4 weeks of the series premiere back in 2020. That, again, it was really helped by it premiering right before COVID, because when everyone was stuck inside looking for stuff to watch, they watched Tiger King and they watched Love is Blind. And on top of that, there have been multiple international versions, like Love is Blind Brazil or Love is Blind another place. I forget what the other ones are, but it is spread. It's been a very lucrative franchise for Netflix. but it is not without its share of controversy. So there have been many complaints made by the participants against Netflix and I guess, what is it, Kinetic Content, referring to long hours on the show. Famously, they're denied free access to food and water. By free, I don't mean monetarily free, but they can't just drink water. They are only given water when the producers decide to give them water, but there's always alcohol, right? And the producers do that because they want the contestants liquored up, tipsy, if not buzzed, if not drunk, with no food or water in their system, to produce the most entertaining content, right? It is not an accident, right? And on top of that, there's really unsafe working conditions. So there's been instances of physical and even sexual assaults or abuse, during the quote-unquote honeymoon periods of some of these relationships that were then ignored by the producers because it didn't fit in their storyline. It didn't fit with their show. It would be a bad look for the brand. It would be a bad look for the experiment. So some of that was kind of kept under wraps. This all kind of came to a boiling point earlier this year, I think it was in January. This was a lawsuit against Delirium TV and Netflix. It was filed by season 5 participant Renee Posh? I'm not sure. Back in January, like I said, and it related to a multi-million-dollar arbitration action that the producers took against her in November of 2023, because they were claiming that she was talking about these conditions. And they claimed that she was violating her NDA, her non-disclosure agreement, by discussing those conditions of her experience on the show. I got a quote here from Brian Friedman, who's the lawyer for Renee Posh, saying, quote, "The practices identified by the NLRB and its complaint against Delirium are ubiquitous in this space. Make no mistake, the reality reckoning is alive and well. This is not the last shoe to drop. Stand by," end quote. And it really just... It really reflects a larger issue in the reality TV space. And maybe some people, especially if you don't like reality TV or you base your whole personality on being better than that, like, oh, that stuff's so stupid. Yeah, that's the point. It's supposed to be stupid. It's not trying to be high art by any stretch of the imagination. It appeals to our most base, desires for voyeurism. And to see people's lives implode on themselves, right? But it doesn't matter how lowbrow the art is. Reality TV personalities are workers. And in this country, for now, workers have rights. They perform labor, which produces surplus value for the business owners. That is the definition of a worker. Studios love reality shows because they're cheaper than scripted content. You don't have to pay the writers. You can get around paying the participants the wages you'd have to pay union actors. And they really blew up during the writer's strike. Not this past writer's strike, but the one before that in 2007, 2008. Because again, they could bypass needing writers in the first place. So not only did they not need writers, but even if they had access to the writers, it would have been more expensive to use them anyway. But they're performing labor and creating value for a business. Those are workers, and workers have rights. And workers' rights and unions, because that's also been a big debate in the reality world, is trying to unionize and organize these participants to be under something like SAG or maybe even its own thing. And sometimes people instinctually go like, oh, come on. They don't need a union. Because we imagine unions as like we needed unions in the 1890s because people were dying at the factories and they needed to stand up. That's all true, but rights and unions aren't just for dangerous work. Workers as a group deserve the right to collectively bargain, to improve their conditions, to improve their wages. Love is Blind is not unique in these issues. So many reality shows, especially of late, like the past 10 years, have had similar kinds of scandals. I think Big Brother had a similar issue in terms of, the experience not being great for people, particularly women, particularly female participants. So this is something I really don't watch a lot of reality TV, but something I have very strong feelings about, that they deserve a larger cut of the pie, and they should be able to do this work without the stress, the unnecessary stress that the conditions bring. But those conditions exist because they end up making a lot of money for someone like Netflix. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel. It makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.